Hi guys, want to spend some time in this month's blog looking at the cast. Some discussion online recently about what is the main cause of the casting move. First of all, the cast, how would I describe it? Simply a sudden widening of the radius. On a daily or weekly basis, I see three distinct types of caster of the golf club. The one I see the least is where the upper centre moves forward too much too soon in the downswing. This creates an issue with the way the accumulators unload, and whilst it appears to be a cast, I don't really see that as being I don't work on casting as such or eliminating a cast as such. When I see that, that tends to be more to do just a discussion about how the two centres separate and the radius soon starts to tidy up. I think really when you're looking at a cast, you need to identify which type of caster you are. Any casting move is a sudden widening of the radius. It's as simple as that, and players do it via different means. These two swings that I've got up for me represent the two most common types of casting of the golf club, and I feel that with any player who casts, either the radius of the swing has been compromised on the way back, and as a result is attempting to regain that radius. So that's one way of casting the golf club. And the other cast is the player who, from the top of the backswing, feels the need to release the golf club very quickly, almost get the club head back to the ball as soon as possible. He or she, it's likely, has been told to release the club. Bottom line is, either player doesn't really understand the sequence involved to prevent casting. Ironically, most of the players that I see who cast the club dramatically are working diligently on trying to eliminate this move. And the players I see with the tightest radius coming down and who never look like they're going to cast it are actually not working on narrowing the radius at all. It's just something that they do because of better sequencing and better understanding of what's required from P4 downwards. So if we take a look at the classic two sort of casting movements that I see on a weekly basis, first of all, we get the lady on the left. We're going back. We're not making, it's not the best swing we're ever going to see, but on the way back, we'll make a decent move. Then by P3, everything starts to collapse. Left arm starts to bend. Right arm starts to fold. Radius of the swing now has been compromised. And now this lady's got to try and regain that radius on the way down. There's the casting move, sudden widening the radius. Unfortunately, as the left arm straightens, the right arm pushes out. The wrists also start to uncock. One way a player does this is by straightening the left leg too fast. This gets the hips moving back. So this is your sort of, I suppose, your classic cast from the top. Radius has been compromised. Starts to widen very quickly. Weight back. Club passing the hands too fast through the hip, etc, etc. The next type of cast that I see is the player whose radius doesn't really get compromised on the way back. Kev makes a little bit of a short backswing, but from here now he's really eager to release this golf club. He's been told that he's got to release the hands. As a result, we see the wrists unhinging too fast. We see the radius widening too much too soon. Head coming up dramatically through the hip. So there's a player who would have a sort of casting look, but for a very different reason from the player on the left. So one player's trying to release it. One player's trying to regain a radius that was compromised on the way back. One commonality, if you will, between these two swings is that both players engage the arms far too soon in the downswing. So the arms and the wrists are being engaged far too soon, far too early, and that's leading to certain problems. So we've got the caster who's trying to regain the radius, usually has the weight back, lead leg straightening too fast, hips getting pushed back, club, hands, everything dumping too soon. And then we have the other guy who keeps the weight forward. He's really trying to get some power into the swing, but he's also being told that he's got to release the golf club. Club head moves away from the left shoulder too fast. As a result, the radius is widening. This player's got the weight forward, but the head coming up dramatically through the hip to prevent the club digging in the ground. So, incorrect sequencing. So once we identify, which player you are, what we then need to do is spend some time looking at what's actually required to maintain the radius during the downswing, and sort of control the low point much better and get away from that nasty sort of casting look. So we take a look now at the way an elite player changes direction, moves from the top. I'm just going to get someone up here for us. Irrespective of whether you are, golfer one who sort of compromises the radius, if you do that, it's a pretty easy fix, I suppose, initially. Keeping the arms straighter for longer, all the way to P4. Having said that, we've still got to know what to do to move from the top. So, our friend online, Torben, if you're watching this relates to the question that you posed earlier last week. What's happening from the top to allow the player to maintain the radius, not cast the golf club, etc., etc. Well, the first thing is, as the body is moving forward, I think we all accept that that's the first move in any golf swing. You can see that the arms actually work away from the target a little bit. Now, that's maybe contradictory to what people think, but you can see clearly where the arms are at P4, the club at P4. As the lower body starts down, the arms are actually working, or the hands are working away from the target, so the hands are working this way a little bit. Golf machinists refer to this as extensor action. Why is that happening? One of the main reasons that's happening, certainly in my opinion anyway, is that the arms are not engaging early at all. Now, the arms are being brought down, but the arms are being brought down by the unwinding of the body. So from P4 to P5, what we saw with the cast of the golf club, we saw the arms engage early. So accumulator 4 started to release from P4. And what we see in this case is that whilst accumulator 4 does start to move down, it's not actually working independently. Accumulator 4 is being lowered by the hip slide and the return to flexion from P4 to, let's say, P4.7. From this point on, the accumulators will now start to release. So one of the things I see with the players who cast, even the player whose radius has sort of collapsed, finding, creating that better position at the top is quite an easy fix. But once that P4 is improved, that player still feels the need to widen the radius, to release the arms too soon, etc., etc. So this is a key part of understanding how to eliminate the cast. It's the sequence of moves. Accumulator 4, the left arm, is lowered from P4 to P4.7, nearly P5, by the unwinding of the body, the return to flexion, and the hip slide. Now from P5 onwards, the accumulators will start to release in a certain order. Accumulator 4 goes first, so that's the left arm moving away from the right shoulder, followed by accumulator 1, which is the right arm straightening, followed by accumulator 2, which is the uncocking of the wrists. Now, interestingly, when we watch the move that this guy makes, that Grant makes from the top, as the weight moves forward, the hips slide, he returns to flexion, that extensor action goes in. We actually see that accumulator 2, the wrists, are actually loading a little bit more. So with the correct sequence from the top, without engaging the arms too soon, we see that the radius actually tightens from P4 to P4.7, before then gradually widening throughout the hit. So a lot of this is a sequencing issue. If I wanted to get rid of a cast for a player, I would be working extensively. Once P4's tidy enough, I'd be working extensively on what goes on from P4 to P5. And the feeling is that the arms do nothing. The arms are just being lowered by the action of the body. So if you look at anybody who's casting, it's a sudden widening of the radius. I think we all accept that. And that sudden widening of the radius is because the arms are engaged too soon. Accumulator 4 starts to fire too early, which causes Accumulator 1, the right arm, to run out. Accumulator 2 to fire too soon, etc, etc. So the radius is widening too much, too soon. The move that you see there now, where the butt of the club is going away from the player, or away from the target. So we've got a situation where the player's weight is moving towards the target and the club is moving away from the target slightly. That is the point at which the player may describe a feeling of pulling down. You can see clearly there that the player is not pulling down. The arms are being brought down, but this movement is more downwards and outwards from P4 to P4.7. If this player pulled his arms down quickly, this club would get thrown out this way, 100%. Pulling down with the arms from the top of the backswing, in my opinion, is one of the worst things you can possibly do to get rid of a cast. It's considering what happens, it's the sequencing of moves, the way the accumulators unload, and Accumulator 4, whilst it does get lowered, is not working independently until at least 4.7 onwards. From there on in, you have a chance of maintaining the radius. You could still dump the wrist angles, but I wouldn't categorise that as a cast by any stretch of the imagination. It would just be a slight widening of the radius issue, a slight issue with the way the wrists are loaded, and just a chat about that. The main reason we cast the club, the main concern people have, is from P4 to P5. So work on your sequencing, try and improve your understanding of what should be happening from the top. If you understand what should be happening from the top, you have a chance of eliminating the cast. If you don't understand what's happening from the top, you'll never get rid of the cast. Good luck with it. If you got any questions, feel free to drop me an email or a text. If you like the channel, please subscribe. If this video you feel helps anybody, please share it with a friend. Thanks very much. Speak to you soon.